Hello beautiful people, let's get started with today's look. First I applied my Beauty Bakery Wake and Bake Face Oil. Then for my eyes, I primed with the Urban Decay Primer Potion in Original, and for my face, the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer. We're starting off with the Juvia's Place Nubian Glow Palette, and I'm going to be picking up this yellow shade in the bottom row of the left corner. We're placing this in the crease, above the crease, winging it out at the corner of the lid space, and then also bringing it down to the lash line, just closing off that outer portion. Then I'm going to get my Saharan Blush Palette Volume 2 and use the shade Tau. We're going to be placing this in the crease and then also the outer portion of the lid. We're using this just to deepen up this area a little bit. In the Mauves palette, I'm going to be dipping into the shade in the middle of the bottom row. Once I have it on my brush, I'm going to spray it with setting spray just to get the full intensity of this color, and I'm applying it to the inner 2/3 of the lid space. After I applied the shade, I realized that I wasn't getting like that pink iridescence that I saw in the pan, and I wanted to have that pink base, so I decided to pick up my Anastasia Beverly Hills On Reezy palette. I'm using the shade Cupcake, and I'm applying it to that same area, the inner 2/3, and applying the setting spray to make sure I get that intensity, and also just helps with placement and making it kind of carve out the lid space. Then we're going back into the Mauves palette. We're applying a setting spray to our brush again after we picked up the eyeshadow, and we're placing it on top. So this shade is definitely more like a topper, I would say, so it adds a nice little green shift on top of that pink hue. Then we're grabbing the shade in the middle of the top row, and we're putting this on the rest of the lid space, just making sure I blend it out as smoothly as possible next to those shimmer shades, bringing it kind of like a little bit of a wing on the outer portion of the lid, and then picking up my previous brush just to blend everything out. With my Crankcase Sharpie pen liner in the satin finish, I'm just applying a super thin line on the lash line. This is more so to prep for lashes as opposed to actually having a defined liner. And for the face, I'm going to be applying my e.l.f. color correcting stick. This is in deeper skin tones, so I'm using this to cover up the areas where I have hyperpigmentation. I'm going to blend it out with a damp beauty blender, just getting all the excess water out of the beauty blender first and just blending everything away. And if I feel like I have too little product, I will go back in and apply more of the color corrector just to make sure I have an even base to work with before I move into foundation. To set the color corrector, I'm going to be grabbing my KVD Vegan Beauty Translucent Powder, and I'm just going to put a light dusting of this on top of the color corrector just so it doesn't start to alter the color of my foundation. And for foundation, we're going in with the Juvia's Place I Am Magic foundation, which is in the shade Tanzania or 205. I like to apply little dots all over the face because, girl, I always say this, if you want coverage, she'll give you coverage. So because I don't want to go in with a lot, I just put little dots all over the face so it's evenly distributed, and then I'll go in with a damp beauty blender and blend everything out. If I need more coverage in a certain area after I do this, I'll go back in and add as needed. I feel like it's a lot better to put less and build up as opposed to have too much and be like, ooh girl, yeah, we don't want that. And for contour, I'm going to be using my Fenty Beauty Matchsticks in the shade Espresso. For concealer, I'm going in with my Juvia's Place in the shade 9. So I do want to quickly point out the fact that when I put down my concealer, I make sure I leave a little bit of a gap between my nose contour, because I don't want it to be overlapping so much that there isn't like an area where I can blend it out or get a very smooth blend, you know? So I like to add a little bit of a space in between those portions, like right underneath my cheek contour and in between the nose contour. I like to have that space there so there's a little bit of give between the products and blending it out. Another habit that I picked up is whenever I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit too much product, specifically this usually happens with the concealer. If I feel like I have too much concealer on the beauty blender as I'm working with it, I will wipe off the excess on a paper towel just so I'm not adding that color to the areas where I may have the foundation or the contour and then it starts getting out of whack. And to set the areas where I highlighted, I'm going in with my Crankcase Chalk Dust in the shade N. This is my first time using this powder, and I feel like at first it pulled out a lot of texture in my skin, but then after a while it kind of settled into the skin and looked pretty nice. I don't know, like I'm still figuring out how much of it to use when I apply it to the beauty blender, because as you guys see, I like to press it into the skin. It could have been my application, I'm not really sure, but I'm still figuring out how I want to work with this product. Then to set everywhere else on my face, I'm going in with my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Dark Deep. And to accentuate my contour, I'm using a super light hand with this powder because it is pretty deep. This is a Becca Cosmetics Multitasking Perfecting Powder in the shade Deep Bronze. I'm setting my face now with the e.l.f. Mist and Set Spray. I'm applying it all over the face, fanning off for a little bit, then I'm using my beauty blender to press everything into the skin. Then for brows off camera, I use my Crankcase Eyebrow Pomade in the shade Dark Brown. In the Mauves palette, I'm picking up that shimmer shade in the bottom row of the right corner, applying that to the outer 2/3 of the lower lash line. Then I'm going to dip into my Nubian Go palette, pick up that shade in the top row of the right corner, and I'm going to be applying that as my inner corner highlight and just covering in that first third of the lid space on the lower lash line. And to blend everything else, I'm using my Amrezy palette, New Yorker, and just getting a smooth blend between everything. To create that inner corner fox eye shape, I'm just going to grab my Sharp Me pen liner from the Crankcase again. Lashes I did off camera, but I use the style Just Just from Super Baddie Kawaii. And for blush, I'm applying B from the Saharan Blush Palette Volume 2. For highlighter, I'm going to be using my Colored Rain X Power collection in the shade or the duo Damage Control. I'm applying my highlighter to my nose, brow bone, and cheeks. Then for lip liner, I'm going to be applying my Melt Cosmetics in the shade Edible. For lipstick, I'm using Old Rose from Melt Cosmetics. And once I blot my lips together and get everything blended out, I'm just going to grab a paper to get all the excess off to prep for our lip gloss, which is going to be from Sugar Pill in the shade Flicker. And to set an entire look, we're going in with the e.l.f. Mist and Set Spray and pressing everything into the skin with our beauty blender. And here is the completed look. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Bless up, and until next time, sending out much peace, love, and enlightenment. Bye guys.